Over the years, I've seen people want some sort of way to play Persona on mobile, whether that's porting a game like Persona 3 Portable to mobile, or making a new Persona Q game, or making something completely different and new. There was Persona 3 Aegis the First Mission, however that was released in 2007 and was only available in Japan. But now, since Persona has grown to become mainstream, now was the perfect time to try and bring Persona back into the mobile market. How? By making everyone spend their life savings on Joker. Persona 5 The Phantom X is the latest spin-off in the Persona series, which brings a new story to Persona 5 with new characters, palaces, and turning Persona 5 into a gacha game. However, recently, the game has finally been released globally after being available in China since 2024. So in this video, I'll be taking a look into the gameplay and how it compares to Persona 5, along with talking about the first chapter of the story. Let's begin. The game begins the same way as Persona 5, with Joker trying to escape the casino. However, after defeating the Shadow, he is ambushed by a new intruder. And after a fight, this new intruder seemingly kills Joker before waking up and realizing that it was all a dream. This is the game's protagonist. Now his default / canon name is Nagisa Kamishiro, but since you can call him whatever you want, and there will probably be a debate on his name at some point, just like the other protagonists, I'll be calling him by his codename Wonder from now on. Wonder, after being woken up by his alarm, heads to school, and later in the day he is filling in a form about his future career, before being summoned and introduced to the Velvet Room. But it's okay, because he just fell asleep. Anyway, he tries to go home, but first he has to get through his very first obstacle: socializing. But he doesn't have the desire, so instead, the student council president steps in for him. He goes on the train home before this owl named Lufel introduces himself to Wonder, and then this guy, who is definitely not from Uber Eats, rides his bike on the train and attempts to run into Wonder, which causes him to accidentally activate the meta-nav on his phone, which ends up with both him and Lufel in Mementos, a place where human desires originate from. They attempt to escape before being attacked by shadows, which causes Wonder to awaken to his persona. Oh, and they also fight a shadow which is stealing desires from the masses on their way out, so that's good. The next day, we get introduced to Tomoko, who is a nice girl that Wonder gets associated with, and Kyuchi, an ex-baseball star, now an office worker, and is our first target for being known as the Subway Slammer, as he just slams into helpless women. Oh yeah, our classmate Madoa gets suspicious of Wonder's actions, and things don't get serious until Kyuchi attacks Tomoko, who I should also mention is Madoa's best friend, and due to the impact of the Subway Slammer, it sends her flying onto the train tracks and leaves her badly injured. After that, Wonder and Lufel discover Kyuchi has a palace in Mementos. A palace is a person's distorted desires given form, and said person's shadow is the palace's ruler, with a shadow basically being a person's other self. So in this case, Kyuchi's palace is a baseball stadium, with Kyuchi being a pro baseball player. So due to what happened earlier that day, this gives Wonder and Lufel enough motivation to sneak into Kyuchi's palace and steal his selfish desires. But as they begin their infiltration, Madoa finds her way into the palace, and after confronting her and Kyuchi's past, she awakens to her persona, and with that, the trio become phantom thieves and attempt to change Kyuchi's heart. That's the most I'll go into in regards to the story for the time being, so now let's talk about the gameplay. Okay, where do I begin? I guess the daily life. So in the original Persona 5, you could do 2 actions per in-game day, one in the day and one at night. Then you would move on to the next day, rinse and repeat. In Persona 5 The Phantom X, however, you get to do 6 actions per in-game day, 2 in the day, evening and night, which is good, and you get to do the same stuff as you normally do, hanging out with friends, working at a part-time job, watching a movie, etc. And P5X has 2 additional benefits, being that you can go to the metaverse at any time and as many times as you want, and you can even leave without time passing, which is great. Another benefit is that there are no time limits to completing the game or the palaces, so you can just play the game purely as a life sim. However, since this is a mobile game, you can only do 20 actions per real life day, but you do get 5 actions back per day. You just can only hold 20 at a time, if that makes sense. Next up is the metaverse, and P5X introduces some changes I love and hate. Okay, hate is a strong word. Love and dislike? So, palaces work basically the same as Persona 5, but with a few changes. Like, anytime you go into a safe room, your HP and SP is immediately fully restored. And you can leave the palace at any time without having any consequences. As before, it would cost an action, but now it doesn't, which I actually like. There's also markers that tell you where to go, which I'm not a fan of for one reason and one reason only, and that's because they tell you exactly where you need to go, which you would think would be no big deal, right? Until they actually give you the solutions to all of the puzzles. Compare this to Persona 5 Strikers, since yeah, that has markers too, but it mainly points you in the right direction instead of just straight up telling you the puzzle solutions and where exactly you should be. Another thing which P5X introduces is lots, and I mean lots, of optional areas in palaces, which mainly hold extra chests and strong enemies, which is cool, and hey, there isn't a marker telling you where to go or how to solve the puzzles. However, it can feel a bit repetitive sometimes, and these strong enemies are no joke. It also doesn't help the fact that it's really hard to get stronger in P5X. So when you defeat enemies, you don't gain any XP like at all. Instead, you just take on different challenges to gain XP, which creates the same scenario as the modern Paper Mario games, and that there's no point in fighting enemies because you don't really earn anything. But you need Wonder to get stronger in order for your team to get stronger as well, and in order to make your team stronger, you have to give them materials, which you can get by completing different challenges, which have their own stamina, meaning you can only do like 1 or 2 of these challenges per day, which can be a bit frustrating until you remember that this is a mobile and gacha game, so unless you want to fork over some cash, it's going to be difficult gaining materials to upgrade your Phantom Thieves levels and weapons. Speaking of the gacha, I might as well go into that. So throughout the game you can get these tickets, which you can then use on the gacha, which can give you different personas and some Phantom Thieves, with there being a rare chance you can get a 5-star Phantom Thief, which are mainly collab characters, which currently are the Phantom Thieves from Persona 5. This might be a little bit controversial, but I don't think that this is a bad way of gaining new Phantom Thieves, to be honest. Look, it sucks that in order to gain new party members you have to gamble, but this doesn't include Phantom Thieves, who are part of the story like Modoa. Like, yeah, you can still get them through the gacha, but that's only to make them stronger. Now I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh right, Mementos. Mementos basically works the same as Persona 5, but now a floor is like 3 times bigger and is now pre-made instead of being fully randomized, unfortunately. I am a bit upset that Mementos is no longer randomly generated, but at least it has some cool stuff to do, which is kinda nice, and you can go back to previous palaces, which is cool. Speaking of the past, currently the game is doing a collab with Persona 5, which not only allows you to pull characters like Joker or Morgana from the gacha, but also includes a mini campaign which has both groups of Phantom Thieves meeting each other, but they also explore a weird alternate version of different palaces from Persona 5. It's really cool seeing the characters interact with each other, especially Morgana and Lufel, which can create some funny moments like these. But yeah, it's really cool that we have those moments, and it's kind of refreshing going through an old palace again, but in a different way. However, it does get a little bit repetitive since you go to the same areas at least twice. If you ever want a break from the game, then the Thieves' Den from Persona 5 Royal returns, where all of the Phantom Thieves you have collected so far will hang out, and you can place around different models of personas, shadows, and locations throughout the game. You can also display different art and listen to music from Persona 5, Royal, and Phantom X. Unfortunately, you can't rewatch any cutscenes or play Tycoon, at least not at the time of this video's release. Now, just like Royal, you have to buy everything using P-Coins, although now not only is everything expensive as hell, but the way you gain P-Coins is different, as now you get one every minute or so depending on your den level, which you can increase by buying stuff. Yeah, I don't like this at all, but I hope you can earn P-Coins through Tycoon just like in Royal. Persona 5 The Phantom X has a great story and cast of characters. However, due to the game being on mobile and being a gacha game, a lot of systems and mechanics are ruined in a way that can turn a lot of people away from the game. Despite this, P5X does contain some improvements as well that I hope they put into the eventual Persona 6, like the more actions per day and the markers, more mainly with how they work in Persona 5 Strikers. If you want to play P5X as the next big mainline Persona game, then you're not gonna like this game at all. However, if you treat the game like a fun spin-off or sequel, like I did, then you'll get some enjoyment out of the game. And hey, at least the game is free, so you're not losing anything for giving the game a try. Just please, whatever you do, don't spend all of your life savings on trying to get Joker.